"Let's go, son," a mother whispered to her son as they left her wealthy husband's house in the middle of the night. What happened during the past few years forced her to abandon her luxurious lifestyle and move into a trailer. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video with your friend. Frank, a wealthy businessman, lived in the city's most expensive area with his wife Scarlett and their teenage son, Timothy. Most people knew the family as the richest people who lived happily together, but the truth was otherwise. Frank had not always been a wealthy man. He had struggled for years before setting up his business and hiring people who worked for him. As a result, he wanted Timothy to work hard and be successful. But Scarlett disagreed. When Timothy was little, he told his father he loved playing sports. So instead of sending him to regular school, Frank enrolled Timothy in one of the best athletic schools in town, expecting his son to work hard and become the best athlete. Timothy spent 10 hours each day practicing at school during weekdays, and on weekends, Frank would teach him regular school subjects for 12 hours. "Hard work makes you successful, son," Frank would say whenever Timothy complained he felt tired or didn't want to become an athlete. Watching her son complain made Scarlett feel bad. She didn't like the routine Frank had set for Timothy, and she would often tell her husband to give their son a break. This time, she did the same. "My poor child is so tired, Frank," Scarlett said. "Why don't you give him a day off each week so he can rest and do what he likes?" "You know nothing about hard work, Scarlett," Frank replied. "I don't want my son to be a weak man. I'm training him to become strong like me, and feeling tired is just part of the process." Scarlett shook her head in disapproval and walked to her side of the bed before closing her eyes and sleeping. She felt sad that she could do nothing to save her son from the tiring routine. The next day, Timothy went to his athletic school, as usual, to prepare for the competition. He had only a day left to practice, and losing the championship was not an option since Frank wanted him to win at any cost. While practicing, Timothy suddenly slipped and landed face down, which injured his knees and elbows. "Dad won't be happy after knowing I fell. What will I tell him?" he wondered, while his instructor informed Scarlett about the accident. "Oh my God!" Scarlett said as she came rushing to Timothy, who was sitting in the instructor's office. "How did this happen? Are you okay, sweetheart?" "It hurts, Mom," Timothy cried. "What will I say to Dad? He's going to scold me." "Don't worry, honey. I'll handle him," Scarlett assured her son before they left for home. Later that day, Scarlett argued with Frank to convince him to let her son rest. "He's okay. There's nothing to worry about," Frank said sternly. "What do you mean? Can't you see he is injured? He can barely walk," Scarlett yelled. "He's a man, okay? Men don't cry over getting hurt," Frank said. "He will compete tomorrow and win the championship. Let him rest at night, and he will be on his feet in the morning." Scarlett marched out of her bedroom, furious at her husband for forcing Timothy to participate in the competition. At that point, the mother could think of only one way to save her son. She decided to run away before dawn. After Frank went to bed, Scarlett quietly packed her and Timothy's clothes before leaving the house. She knew one place where her husband wouldn't bother her, and that was in a village outside the city. "Mom, where are we going?" Timothy asked. "Away from your dad, sweetheart. We're going to live in your grandfather's trailer. He handed me the keys before he passed away," Scarlett replied. "Thank you for saving me from Dad. He wanted me to participate in the competition tomorrow, but I don't have the strength for it," Timothy said while he waited for the train with his mother. The following morning, Scarlett and Timothy were resting inside the trailer, far away from Frank, who had no idea where his wife and son were. He was furious when he didn't find them in the house. "Mom, is Dad going to find us?" Timothy asked Scarlett. "I don't think so. He doesn't know about this trailer," Scarlett replied. Later that day, Scarlett cleaned the trailer and cooked dinner before she sat on the grass outside with her son. The pair enjoyed each other's company and went to bed in peace. Meanwhile, Frank called his family and friends and asked if his wife had contacted them, but no one knew where Scarlett was. "I will find you and bring my son back," Frank screamed inside his house. It took Frank 2 weeks to find out about his late father-in-law's trailer through the lawyer. As soon as Frank got the address, he drove to the trailer in his mini truck. "You thought I won't find you, huh?" he yelled at Scarlett, who was shocked to see him there. "Where's my son?" "Leave him alone, Frank." Scarlett tried to stop her husband to no avail. Frank barged into the trailer and found Timothy sitting on a chair. "Here you are, Timothy. Come on, let's go home. Frank pulled his son's arm and dragged him outside. Leave him, Frank! Scarlett begged. Please leave him. I won't, Frank yelled. You can't stop me from raising a real man. I'm going to make him work hard and succeed in life. But you have already raised a real man, Frank, Scarlett said. Why can't you understand that? Frank stopped and looked at his wife with a raised eyebrow before she explained what she meant. You see this? Scarlett pointed towards a fire. Your son lit this fire to keep us warm. Then she went inside and returned with a plate of freshly cooked meat. See this? Your son made this meat for dinner. Frank's eyes widened, and he loosened his grip on Timothy's arm. Timothy goes to the nearby farm daily and earns money by working there. He takes care of me, protects me, and does all the chores. Your son is a real man, Frank, Scarlett said. He doesn't need to win competitions to prove his worth. Frank looked at the ground and shook his head. I'm sorry, son, he said. I was forcing you to fulfill my dreams without realizing that you never wanted to participate in competitions. I was so selfish. Eventually, Scarlett and Timothy returned to Frank's home after he assured them that he would let his son do whatever he liked. From that day onwards, Frank never forced Timothy to practice for competitions and allowed him to play with his friends and take breaks.